Hi. This is kind of sort of a semi-serious kind of video again. I was reading, I think, a couple of days ago about Ann Coulter. I think that's her name, Coulter. I'm guessing she is a Republican, and I think it was last year. I want to say it was last year, a couple weeks ago or something. She was caught voting in the wrong district. Now, the thing in America is you have a district. You have to vote in your district, and if you cannot be present, you can do an absentee ballot for that district. You cannot vote in any other districts, though. And a lot of times each party will have I was kind of involved in this once in my town's mayor election. I got very involved in the issue. I was actually helping out for the current mayor at that time. I was helping out with his headquarters, answering the phones and whatnot. And we would have a representative at each district, a representative from each candidate. At the time, there was only like 2 major candidates. So the 2 major candidates have their representatives to make sure that the people who are supposed to vote in that district. And apparently, Ann Coulter was not in the correct district. The person asked her to fill out a form for a change of address to verify her new, that this is her current new district, because some people might forget, And she ran out. There were officials trying to investigate the situation, and apparently she has not been very cooperative with them regarding it. Anyway, I wasn't really going to talk about that situation, but they were talking about the book that she wrote, and the title was a bit intriguing. She wrote something about, let me look it up real quick, the name of the book. I think it's something like Godless Liberals or something like that. I don't know how to spell that darn woman's name. Let's see. Then L. Her and her stupid. Yeah, she's very conservative. She's also the same woman who criticized the 9/11 widows. Now her book is entitled, let's see, her book, she has a bunch of different books, Liberal Lies About the American Rights, Liberal Treachery from the Cold War, How to Talk to a Liberal If You Must, and Godless, the Church of Liberalism. And because of such a God-fearing person, because, she goes and writes books demeaning other people because she's God-fearing, because, that is the way of God, to demonize, to put down others that are not as good as you. That's the way of God, apparently. If you ask me, in general, politicians are all godless. And I don't mean godless as in they do not have a God. I mean godless as in when they do things, they do it for their own benefit. They don't take in the people's rights. And even those who speak about their morals and whatnot, no, it's just that this is what they want, and they want everybody else to do as they want. It's like, God's put in as a question, but sometimes it's thrown in more like a lifesaver, just to use as an excuse. It doesn't, it feels a lot of times that these politicians, when they use God, it really doesn't feel like they're really honestly using God. It's just using it as a scapegoat. You know what I mean? And they're not using it in a, no, I'm God-fearing and I really want to do the best thing. And you don't sit there and force people if you want the best for other people. You talk to them, explain to them your point of view, say, this is what makes me feel like a good person, and this is why I'm happy with my life, because I fear God, I do things, in the right way so I can feel, go to heaven or whatever. And you say things like that, or your actions, that's what makes people think if you're a good person or not. Not if you sit there and shake them like, you have to listen to me, and this is what you have to do, and you have to not have abortions, you have to not do this, and this, because I said so, because that's the way of God. No, that's what turns people off. As for liberals being so quote-unquote godless, I hate when people say that. I hate that. Because it's like, because you're looking out for each individual person's rights, that means you have no respect for God. Because you're saying, this person it's her body, she should have the right what to do with it, and it shouldn't be my right because of my personal beliefs. Then all of a sudden now, you have no God because you're saying that. That's BS, in my opinion. Because it's like, that's why I really, truly believe in the separation of church and state. I strongly believe in it. And I believe it really, really needs to be applied. And I'd love to have a majority of Democrats in the Senate. I really would. And in Congress. Because we need that now. We need a strong belief of liberalism and a strong belief of separation of church and state. I'm not saying all Democrats are good, because a lot of them are corrupted as well. There are actually some good, I've heard of I've heard of like a few Republicans that actually are for abortion and are for like quote unquote liberal rights, the more moderate Republicans. But there really needs to be a separation of church and state. The Pilgrims, the Puritans, when they came here, they were looking for freedom from persecution. They were looking for that religious freedom. And of course, there's all these other reasons that go into the mix, and I know the main, but the obvious reason, the main top reason that we all know of, they came for religious freedom. And yet, we seem to lose this idea, and people develop these other ideas of what it means to be American. If you're against the war, you're not American. If you criticize the president in any sort of way, you're not American. But wasn't our country essentially founded on the idea of having your own voice? Not having the monarchy or whatever, put a voice over you and muffle you out. And yet we seem to forget this, and we seem to kind of develop our own definition of what it means to be American, what it means to be patriotic, and blah, blah, blah. And, and I think that's what really essentially tore the country apart, especially during the last election, the last presidential election. Because you have this one side that's saying, no, we have to listen to everything the president says, blah, blah, blah. And then there's this other side that says, no, but we have the right to say, I don't fully 100% support the president and what he's doing. Not saying that they're going to go do something radical, but don't you have a right to say that you don't agree with the president? Isn't that our constitutional right to say what we believe, to say what we think? And yet you still have a bunch of people saying to you that because you're saying that, you're not for the country, or you don't have a God, or you have no morals, or you're just a bad, outstanding person. It's kind of annoying when you can't even express your own beliefs because people criticize you for that, or they make assumptions about you from that. But See, I always have like a big core thought that I wanted to say, and then I end up rambling, and then I don't know if I'm saying the thing I wanted to say. But I just hate when people make assumptions about your personality and about your own personal beliefs because you speak out about something. It's one thing if you say something extreme, like, I'm not even going to say anything because I don't want people to start saying wrong things about me. But when you say something extreme, like you want to do something that's going to harm a person, physically harm somebody else, that's one thing. And that's like borderline terrorism. I understand when people do that because they want to make a message, but it's not right. It's still not right. But at the same time, people who just say it verbally, when they say regular things verbally, like, the president's stupid, he shouldn't have done this, blah, 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 people look at them like it's the same thing. And it's just kind of like, people need to stop making that comparison and start listening to other people. They really need to hear each other out because nothing is going to be agreed upon unless you hear each other out. And that's what's going on. Everybody wants to hear what they want to hear, and they don't hear what's really actually being said. And that's, it applies to Democrats, it applies to liberals, conservatives, people in general. It's, it's just a common thing among people, And you're going to hear somebody say, well, I'm against the war in Iraq because it's killing people. And then, and then some conservative is going to come along and say, that's it, you're going against the president, you're a terrorist, you're terrible, you should just not live in this country. If you don't like it, and you don't like our president, you should just leave. And that's just stupid. I mean, come on. Because that's not why our country was that's not why our country was made. Because if it was, we could have all just lived in a nice big monarchy and shut our mouths and not say a thing. Or live in a dictatorship. Because that's what it feels like it's becoming. The way things are going right now. It feels like it's a dictatorship, and I mean, it scares me sometimes to realize how much power our president has. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, he's this great super powerful person. I mean like, the Senate turns down the idea of Iraq. Or was it the Senate or Congress? One of them, I don't know, I can't think straight right now. The UN does not give him approval. And yet, what does he do? He still goes out and does it. Does that not scare anybody that people let him do this? I mean, I understand the union's like, oh, that's terrible that he shouldn't have done it. Get people. Why isn't anybody stopping him? I'm sorry, but I feel so scared saying this, but I'm like, he is just as bad as the terrorist. He's going out and doing things without anybody's approval whatsoever. He's making this strange connection from 9/11 to Saddam Hussein. I'm not saying Saddam Hussein is a good person. No, he's done a lot of bad things. But as for his connection with Al-Qaeda and 9/11, it's like me taking the friggin' turnpike and then going onto the parkway and then going down 500 friggin' highways so I can get next door. Which is like a 2-second walk. Yeah, that's basically what he's doing with that. And then there are people stupid enough to fall for it. When many people knew that Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden hated each other. They hate each other. And he was actually keeping Al-Qaeda out of Iraq. And now all of a sudden there's chaos. Because he just couldn't listen because that man tried to kill my daddy. He tried to kill my daddy and I'm gonna go beat him up. Apparently that's what he's doing, so I mean, like, see, look, I've just went on a tangent. You don't want to get me talking about politics because I can go on like a billion tangents, but this man has too much power and it frightens me because everybody can say, no, you shouldn't do this. I'm not approving you to do this. I'm not letting you do this. And he just ruined the whole system of checks and balances within the United States. I mean, does anybody realize that he just crashed that system of checks and balances like that? Everybody's like, now we have such a good democratic system here. We have the system of checks and balances. We have the House of Representatives, the Congress, the Senate. It's a nice, the president doesn't have that much power that he's supposed to have. He has to approve everything, and we have a good system of checks and balances. And he smashed it like that with his big old ear. He just sat there and just like, he said nuclear, and smashed it like that. But, that scares me. That frightens me. Because one person should not have that much power within the world. We always praise equality in America. That's our big thing. American equality. We're home of the brave, land of the free and home of the brave or whatever. But how free are we if one person's sitting there making all the decisions for us and doing everything within the whole entire world? And whenever something happens, it's all of a sudden America has to go. Like, it's okay. Yeah, I understand we're a little better off than some other countries and we should go help them, blah, blah. But a lot of times it's like, at one point, our economy was so terrible. Like, they were talking about how he was the president of one of the worst economies within several years, or within a decade, or a couple of decades. And yet he was more concerned about Iraq and about all these other things, but not his own country. It's good to help people, but sometimes you have to stay out of it. Sometimes you shouldn't let things go to such extremes. And he made everything worse. Those people had a nice normal life. Maybe their president wasn't the best person in the world. Maybe he wasn't the most moral person in the world. But they had stability. They were able to go outside. Everything was okay. And then those people interviewed after the war, like after the war started, their lives were ruined. Children left in the streets dead. Normal people have nothing to do with the war, just dead all over. Because one man had to get revenge. Or supposedly he just made this connection. Where's the weapons of mass destruction? All these people. And then he's such a son of a bitch, too. And he still says, we're not leaving Iraq until I'm not president, or whatever the hell he said. And it's just like, and you don't care. You're not going to rebuild them. You're just sitting there fighting the insurgents. And then once that's all done and over with, and you get whatever you get that you want, and you leave, you're not going to help them fix anything up. You're not going to give them back the lives that they lost. You just sat there and destroyed their homes and left like nothing, like it's no sweat off of your back. And you're living in your nice little Texas ranch, sitting there like sipping your oil. I don't know. I can't even watch I can't even watch the news whenever it comes up because it makes me feel so sick to my stomach. Just the chaos going over there, and there are a lot of people now on the same bandwagon. After it was proven there were no weapons of mass destruction, and those people, as much as I'm happy to have them, it still pisses me off because it was like I was against it from day one. I knew there was no connection, and second of all, I knew there was no reason to have such a terrible war and hurt all these people because of one man that was initially not even connected. But, and then when he was supposedly in Afghanistan, and that was something proven, that was something proven, and yet the army asked for more soldiers on ground over there. They didn't give them anybody. They sent everybody over to Iraq that had nothing to do with anything, except that Saddam Hussein was a little corrupted. But so is June, whatever his name is. I don't know his name. The leader of North Korea, the one who's setting off missiles every now and then. Supposedly he is even a worse threat than Iraq was. Iran, North Korea. Why weren't you sending people over there? Mr. Bush? But whatever. I don't know. Maybe I take it more to heart because I feel a little closer, because I am Arab and they are Arabs, and something you feel a little closer to. But still, to just have war, and then they talk about, Bush Sr. But at least when it was the Gulf War, there was a reason. They were occupying Kuwait, and they did need to get out because they were trying to occupy another country. That had a reason. This had no reason. It was just out of nowhere. And then all these innocent people's lives, their homes destroyed and everything destroyed. And I know I've gone off on a tangent of what I was originally going to say, but I get like that when I talk about politics. I can go on forever. If you want to leave video responses and let me go on to another ramble / rant / tangent times 1 billion, then feel free to take that risk. But beware, I can get very passionate and ramble and stutter and yeah. But yeah, that's my take on politics and Iraq and Bush and like 50 billion other things. But yeah.